Hi, it's Mike with AskTractorMike.com. This year, I did something I've never done. I hooked onto my Bush Hog, or my Bush Hog. Bush Hog's your brand name. Or rotary cutter, rough cut cutter, topper in the UK, slasher in Australia, whatever you want to call it. One of these, Bush Hogs. And I went right to the field with it. I didn't service it at all. Now, it was serviced before I put it away, but I normally check over everything, and I didn't this year. That's because my wife wanted rid of some hemlock. We've got poison hemlock growing out of control in Missouri, and we had some in our pasture. She wanted it down, and we've been married almost 35 years. When the wife says, get on that tractor and go to work, I jump. And so I took it out, knocked down the hemlock. Now I'm going to service it. And we're going to talk today. I'm going to give you some tips about servicing a Bush Hog, whatever you want to call it. And I've got a little Bush Hog tray here. And this is something I just created. Got certain tools in it that I always use on this machine. And I'm going to keep these in this tray. It fits nicely under my workbench. And when I need to service this thing, all the tools will be there. And I don't know if you're like me, I spend more time looking for tools than I actually do turning wrenches. But what's in this is a lube shuttle grease gun. And if you don't have a lube shuttle, get a lube shuttle. The tubes screw in. It's a nifty concept, works like a charm. It's a lot less messy than the old style grease guns. You can buy them on my website, help support my channel. But any grease gun will work, so get that. I've got a flashlight. We'll talk about why you need a flashlight later. Got some 80-90 gear oil in case we need it for the gearbox. I've got a bungee. I'll show you why here in a minute. Got a rag, always got to have a rag. I've got a paint pencil, which we're going to use on this thing. I have a 15/16 open wrench and a 15/16 socket, and then an adjustable wrench, and then I believe it's a 5/16 Allen wrench and a level. And we'll use all of this stuff here. And I'm not going to do a lot of editing on this video. I'm going to do most of this in real time, just so you kind of see how long this takes, because it takes no time to service one of these things. And we ought to be doing it every time we use it. I should have done it before I went to the field this year, and I didn't. First thing I'm going to do is use my other tool, which is a leaf blower, and clean the debris off of it. This makes it a lot easier and a lot cleaner to work on. All right, first thing I'm going to do today is take my bungee cord. I've got a shield right here that won't stand up. So I'll put my bungee cord under it, put it back here to the tail wheel, and now I can get to my gearbox. Now, if you're buying a Bush Hog, one really nice feature I have, and it's one real reason I like this squealer model Bush Hog, and I don't know if the new ones are like this or not, but the old ones were, I can take a PTO shaft off and grease it. Watch this. Now, a lot of your PTO shafts attach with a bolt in the back. And some engineers that are brilliant have put grease zerks under shields where you can't get to them. And a lot of the Bush Hogs sold today have that. Mine, you just have this push pin right here, and you push that in and pull it right off the machine. It makes greasing the back of it really easy. So what I'm going to do today first is clean off that back grease zerk, because that one always gets just nasty, and we don't want to put any of that nasty grease and debris back in there. And I'm going to get that right straight there. Take my lube shuttle. It clicked. I like the pistol grip. Just crank till you hear grease coming out somewhere. And usually when I grease, it's coming out before I find it's coming out. And I've got the equivalent of a slug of grease somewhere. But yeah, that's coming out. I see fresh grease coming out there. That's the back half. Now on this particular machine, it's got a shear bolt right here. And if I hit something that doesn't move, this shear bolt shears. And you've got to keep the parts around the shear bolt lubricated so they don't rust up. And so there's a grease zerk back here. Now at this point I'll say, if you've got a slip clutch, I'm kind of partial to the shear bolt when you've got one that the shear bolt is easy to get to, and this one is. All right. I have not hit that in a while, I don't think. I don't hear any grease coming out. Oh, I see it though. There it is. Yeah, it's got plenty of grease. All right. If you've got a slip clutch, I've got a video on how to adjust a slip clutch, and you need to do that every year. Yeah, this is what came out that time. Yeah, well, that's how I roll. Now we're going to get the front half, and the front half's a little cleaner, but I'm still going to wipe it off good. I always waste a lot of grease because I never know when it's coming out, but I'd rather have too much than not enough. I tell you what, you want to slow down your tractor operation, do a YouTube channel, because it takes twice as long to do everything when you're filming and trying to show it. And I'm not really doing that great a job of showing it. Just push that on until you feel it. Ugh. Seat. There it is. And that's already coming out. So we got plenty of grease. All right, PTO shaft is done, right? Now, one other thing. You got one of these plastic shields? They need grease too. They've got these little grease zerks right there. Is that one. And I absolutely can't tell you when to know that thing is full. But I just don't scrimp on the grease, and it's real hard to tell when you're hooked onto it too, because it doesn't really seat like the metal ones do. Four or five pumps, and I'm going to push this down and hold it. All right, and one in the back. Now you've got a lot of stuff spinning in these shields, so make sure you get them. And boy, they get kind of nasty. They're recessed and there's a lot of dirt and debris goes down in there. And boy, it is really hard to tell when they are seated. All right, here we go. All right, that should be good. Now I'll show you how easy these shafts are to put on. And if you've got a splined shaft on the back, you might be able to buy one of these and it'd be worth an investment. But if you've got a round shaft on the back with a hole in it for a bolt, it's not an option. But if I didn't have one of these and I could buy one, it'd be a good investment because it makes greasing so much easier. All right, we're done with our bungee cord. Now we're going to start at the front and go to the back and check our tightness of our bolts. Brush hogs vibrate a lot. And as they vibrate, all the bolts get loose. And I don't hardly ever do this that I don't find one or two loose bolts. So most of the bolts on this, except for the pins, are 15/16. And so we're going to go around tighten them. And like this bolt right here that holds the A-frame on would be loose. Look at that. pins could be loose. Yeah, that's pretty tight. Let's see. That's tight. I'm going to tighten up all these bolts. Oh, that one, this is real loose. All right. That's tight. Oh, that's, and these. That's tight. All right, last bolts to check. This gearbox, you can't get a socket in to save you. So I'm gonna just check it with a regular open end wrench. Well, they're as tight as I can get them. These you need to check. You get a bunch of gearbox bolts loose and it could go bad really quick. All right, we're gonna check the oil in the gearbox. Before we check it, I'll tell you, the reason I have a level is I've leveled the machine so this gearbox level will be right. And I'm just gonna take this plug out. Am I going the right way? Whoa. Now, there should just be a little oil trickle out, and it should be the color of oil and not milky. Let's see what happens. Uh-oh. It's milky. Look at that. Now what happens, this is a really common problem, is these things sit outside or even inside the barn, and they get a little moisture condensation in the gearbox, and that's probably not a lot of water in the oil, but it's enough. I'm going to change it, and I'll do a video on that later. Now these gearboxes are pretty tough. They don't require a lot of lubrication, but that's enough water in there. I'm going to change that. And it's 80, 90 weight oil, and it goes in up here. But I know I've got lubrication in there. I just need to change it. All right, going further back on the machine to get to the tail wheel, there's two grease zerks. One is right here. I hear it coming out, but I don't see it. Now I see it. It's right under there. All right, that needed some grease. And the other one is the wheel, right here. These tail wheels take a beating, and they need a lot of lubrication. Well, it's been a while since I've greased that. It's obvious. Or else it's coming out somewhere. There it is. All right, we're good. Okay, we've got all the bolts tightened. We've checked our gearbox oil. We've greased everything. We're going to go under the machine next. Okay, you see I've got my brush hog blocked up on both sides to make sure it's level. And if I were going to crawl under here, I'd want a jack stand. A guy from our hometown got crushed under a car when I was a kid, and I won't get under anything unless I've got for sure enough jack stands to keep it from falling on me. And I recommend you do the same. I want to inspect our blade under there before we go to the field. And one of the main things that will cause you to have a failure on a bush hog is to have a bunch of twine wound up in your blade pan underneath there. And if you had twine in there and it moved up into the seal, it could take that seal out. And obviously this one is clear, but that's something you want to look at. And also while you're under here, make sure like I said, I'm not going to get under this, but make sure your blades swing freely and aren't stuck under the blade pan, because that'll make the thing vibrate like a banshee. That's serviced. It's ready to go back to the field, and that sure didn't take very long. I appreciate you watching my videos. I would be honored if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm about to hit 100,000 subscribers, and that's a big deal in Google's world, and it'd be a big deal to me, and you could help me. No salesman will call, you won't get on a mailing list, I won't send you junk mail. Doesn't cost anything. Just click the mic face icon and check the bell so you're notified when I post future videos. Here's a link to my website and the Tractor Fun Store with some pretty unique items for sale for the tractor owner that helps support my channel. And here's another video you might want to watch. Thanks for watching.